Hello everyone, and welcome back for another video. This video is about what is happening in the world of athletics in relation to a new gene test for women prior to taking part in the World Athletics Championship later this month. Let's get straight into it. As of the 1st of September 2025, the world of women's athletics has entered a new era, one defined by a small swab of the cheek. World Athletics, the global governing body for the sport, has introduced a mandatory one-time gene test for all athletes wishing to compete in the female category at its world ranking events. This landmark policy, finalized in the summer of 2025, represents one of the most significant shifts in eligibility rules in modern sports history. The directive is straightforward. To compete as a female, every athlete must now undergo a genetic screening process, a move that has sent ripples of discussion and debate throughout the international sporting community. The primary motivation behind this sweeping change, as articulated by World Athletics President Sebastian Coe, is the preservation of fair competition. The organization argues that the biological differences between males and females which emerge during puberty create a significant performance gap. This new rule aims to establish a clear biological baseline for the female category, ensuring that athletes born and developed as female do not face what Coe has termed a biological glass ceiling. By verifying an athlete's biological sex at the chromosomal level, the governing body hopes to create a protected and equitable space for female competitors, securing the category for future generations of women and girls. This decision did not emerge from a vacuum. It is the culmination of years of intense debate, legal challenges, and high-profile controversies that have questioned the very definition of the female category in sport. The issue gained widespread public attention following the rise of South African 800-meter runner Caster Semenya, whose case brought the complexities of differences in sex development, or DSD, to the forefront. More recently, the Paris 2024 Olympics saw boxers who had previously been ruled ineligible in other competitions win gold medals, reigniting the debate and prompting calls from various groups for more definitive screening methods to be introduced. The implementation of the rule was swift, with a deadline set for the beginning of September 2025, just ahead of the World Championships in Tokyo. National federations were tasked with overseeing the testing of their athletes, a major logistical undertaking that required coordination on a global scale. World Athletics reported that by the time the deadline arrived, the vast majority, over 90%, of eligible female athletes had completed the test. This marked the official start of a new chapter, one where a genetic marker has become the key to unlocking entry into the world's most prestigious athletics events for women. The new policy centers on a specific genetic test that screens for the presence of the SRY gene, which stands for the sex-determining region Y. This particular gene is located on the Y chromosome and is responsible for initiating the biological development pathway that leads to male characteristics. The test itself is designed to be non-invasive and can be conducted using a simple cheek swab or a blood sample. The logic is that the presence of the Y chromosome, and therefore the SRY gene, is a reliable biological marker that distinguishes males from females, providing a clear and objective line for eligibility. Once an athlete provides a sample, it is sent to a laboratory for analysis. If the test comes back negative, meaning the SRY gene and the Y chromosome are absent, the athlete is confirmed as eligible to compete in the female category. This result is recorded, and the athlete does not need to be tested again. However, a positive test result indicating the presence of the Y chromosome makes an athlete ineligible for the female category. An exception exists for individuals with a rare condition known as complete androgen insensitivity syndrome, or KIS, where a person has XY chromosomes but their body cannot respond to male hormones, preventing male development. World Athletics has emphasized that this process is one of verifying female biology rather than gender testing, a distinction they feel is crucial. Following a positive test, the organization has stated that the process is not automatically one of disqualification. Instead, It triggers a confidential medical assessment and provides access to counseling for the athlete involved. The athlete also retains the right to challenge the findings through an appeal to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, ensuring there is a formal process for dispute resolution. The privacy of the athletes is a stated priority, with test results used only for eligibility and then destroyed. The choice of the SRY gene test is a departure from previous methods of sex verification in sports, which have included visual inspections in the 1960s and broader chromosome tests that were later abandoned due to their unreliability. World Athletics Working Group concluded that the SRY gene serves as a robust proxy for determining biological sex, especially in the context of athletic performance advantages that arise from male puberty. This scientific rationale underpins the entire policy, presenting it as an objective and evidence-based solution to a long-standing and complex problem that has challenged sports administrators for decades. The introduction of the gene test has been met with significant support from within the athletics world, particularly from female athletes and their representative bodies. World Athletics President Sebastian Coe has reported receiving overwhelming support for the policy, suggesting that many feel it is a necessary step to guarantee a level playing field. Supporters argue that without such a clear biological boundary, the integrity of the female category is at risk. They point to events like the women's 800-meter final at the Rio 2016 Olympics, where all three medalists were DSD athletes with XY chromosomes, as evidence that the performance advantages conferred by male biology can dominate the podium. This sentiment is echoed by campaign groups such as Sex Matters, which have long advocated for the protection of female-only sports. They see the SRY gene test as a fair, objective, and scientifically sound method for ensuring that competitions designated for women are reserved for biological females. For these advocates, the issue is not about excluding individuals, but about categorizing athletes based on the biological realities that fundamentally impact physical performance. The move by World Boxing to adopt a similar SRY testing policy following the Paris 2024 controversy further suggests a growing consensus among some international sports federations that this is the correct path forward. However, the policy has also drawn sharp criticism and raised profound concerns among other athletes, scientists, and human rights advocates. US runner Nikki Hiltz, who is non-binary, described the tests as disappointing, questioning the precedent they set. Two anonymous Canadian athletes spoke of the unnecessary stress and invasion of privacy caused by the mandatory screening. Critics worry that the policy reduces a complex issue to a simple genetic marker, potentially causing significant emotional and psychological harm to athletes who may be flagged by the test, especially those who have lived their entire lives as women. The scientific community is not entirely united behind the policy either. Some experts, including Professor Andrew Sinclair, the very scientist who co-discovered the SRY gene, have labeled the test as misguided. They argue that the presence of the SRY gene alone does not definitively determine biological sex or athletic advantage, and that development is a far more complex process. Sociologists like Madeline Pack warn of the ethical pitfalls, highlighting the risk that the tests could inadvertently out athletes with DSD conditions, exposing them to public scrutiny and stigma against their will, and turning a private medical matter into a public controversy. The practical rollout of the new gene testing rule has not been without its difficulties, highlighting the complexities of implementing a global policy across diverse legal landscapes. One of the most significant hurdles has been the fact that genetic testing is illegal for non-medical reasons in several countries, including France and Norway. This forced athletes from these nations to travel abroad or to team holding camps simply to comply with the new regulation, adding logistical and financial burdens. Furthermore, a laboratory error in Canada required a group of athletes to be retested, illustrating the potential for procedural mistakes that can add to the stress and uncertainty for those involved. These logistical challenges underscore a broader debate about the fairness and feasibility of the policy. While World Athletics has provided some financial support for the tests, critics question whether it is just to place this requirement on every female athlete. The process, though described as simple, can be a source of anxiety as athletes await a result that holds the key to their career. The potential for false positives due to sample contamination, however small, also remains a concern for scientists who believe a single test is too simplistic. These issues raise questions about whether the solution intended to create fairness introduces new forms of inequity. The debate over the SRY gene test is fundamentally about where society and sport should draw the line to ensure both inclusion and fair play. It forces a difficult conversation about the purpose of the female sports category and how to protect it while respecting the rights and dignity of every athlete. The history of sex testing in sports is fraught with stories of individuals who were unfairly excluded, such as Spanish hurdler Maria José Martínez Patino in the 1980s. While World Athletics insists its new test is far more accurate, the fear of repeating past mistakes looms large in the minds of many opponents. As the dust settles after the 1st of September deadline, the sporting world watches closely. The Tokyo World Championships will be the first major test of the policy in action, and its impact will be scrutinized by athletes, federations, and the public alike. The International Olympic Committee, under its new president, is also considering its approach for future games, including the LA 2028 Olympics. Whether this gene test becomes the new global standard or a controversial chapter in sports history remains to be seen. What is certain is that the quest for a solution that is both fair and humane is far from over. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, like and share this video to help the channel grow. Bye for now, and catch you all in the next video.